song. America's survival song. America's survival song. America's survival song. Survive this.
Hey everybody, it's Dan Shrigley with Survival Trek Escape Talk Radio. Our topic today is going to be basic survival. Now, the great thing about our topic is it's not going to be complicated because it's basic. All right, some of the things that you need to know about when we're talking about basic survival is that, one, realizing that when you're in a survival situation and your life depends on it, and what precautions that you need to take from that moment on. It's a real critical point in any situation when you're trying to establish a level of calmness, collect your thoughts, and that's really pivotal for when you're in a predicament that you find, hey, I found myself in a spot, a tough spot. What do I do? Now I'm feeling panicky. Okay, well, that's a natural occurrence in anybody, so you're going to get panicked. But the thing is, don't let it overrun you. Try to calm yourself down. The best way to calm yourself down when you're feeling panicky is just sit down. Start breathing deep. Take some deep breaths. Hold it in for a little bit. Let it out. Breathe back in. Hold it in a little bit. Let it out. And just realize, hey, look, I've watched some television shows about survival. I've probably read some articles. I've listened to the radio programs. I think I do know what's going on because a long time ago, survival wasn't really as publicized as it is now. So a lot of people do have some basic common knowledge when it comes to survival, and you just got to kind of trust your gut and your instinct, because your instinct for survival will instantly start taking over anyway. But the one thing that could defeat you is panic. And if you start panicking, accidents happen. So that's the first thing, is calm. Be calm. Relax yourself, okay? Now, you want to absorb and soak in your environment and your situation and figure out, well, how can I maximize this and turn this into an educational process for me so that way I can make decisive, correct decisions that will get you saved, okay? Well, we all know that the first thing is seeing if you can get your bearing about you. Figure out where you are. You might be lost for a moment, but you could get your bearings about yourself. Or you could find yourself in a predicament that you crash landed in a plane, you came out, you survived. Thank God. I hope that doesn't happen to you, but or you got in a predicament somehow, some way, but you're in survival mode. Okay, so how you got there, sometimes this is important because it's going to be maybe an indicator how you're going to have to get yourself out. But that's not always the case either. So when you find yourself in a predicament that is a survival type situation, what you want to do is do some wilderness or wilderness survival type meditation. And you just sit down and you kind of look around you. What do I need to survive with? What tools do I need? What fundamentals and priorities of survival are going to be effective and take precedence on my situation today? And that's based on your region. That's based on time of day, weather considerations, what you have available to you, and preparedness and everything like that. Now, I do watch a lot of survival shows. I watch a lot of YouTube channels. I watch a lot of things that people go out and they film their in survival situation. They call themselves Survivor Man or Survivor Dude. Survivor Man himself. Les Stroud is an awesome guy. But you have some guys that are out there trying to make their name, and they have fancy video editing, which is great. I mean, it's good content. A lot of them are doing a good job. But the one thing you always notice, they always have everything they need. And I teach a lot more about having the ability to create the things you need without bringing anything in with you. So I actually am a minimalist when it comes to survival at that aspect of it. So, not everybody's going to have a backpack with a whole bunch of stuff. That's putting yourself in a camping situation like Survivor Dude. I see him. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's always got everything with him. And that's great. And he tries to teach some survival classes, which I actually think some of his classes are good. But the thing is 9 times out of 10, when you're in a critical situation, you're not going to have all that stuff, because usually a person that has all that stuff knows better than to put themselves in a situation of dire straits. Most of the time when you're in a survival situation, you're in a situation by accident. Okay? And so I try to keep things real and on a level in my teaching of philosophy for wilderness survival, or any type of survival situation, be it catastrophic, man-made, or natural occurrences. So you are in dire straits, you're in dire straits, and it usually happens upon you quite fast. So having the ability to generate your own tools, generate your own shelter, generate your own water procurement, filtering the process for water and purifying your water, and then also generating food. Sometimes you'll need to generate your own clothing and things like that. So being able to use your creative imagination, and you hear me say it every time, creative imagination, your thought process, with the backing of the knowledge of your fundamentals and priorities of survival, are going to be putting you in a spot of success versus failure. Okay, you want to go from being a survivalist to a survivor. That's the whole point. Okay, and sometimes that involves self-extraction or search and rescue extraction, and the way you do that is by signaling communication. Okay, if your electronic platforms fail you, how are you going to signal your location to people at great distances? Well, that's easy, because you're going to have to use fire and smoke and flash mirrors or whatever you need to do that, to create that. And very rarely do you in nature find reflective, shiny objects, but sometimes you can if you do it right. You know, if you are in the wintertime and you can polish yourself up a block of ice and use that and smooth it out where it's super smooth, using a little bit of heat and rubbing on it and just kind of formulating a shape to it, you can create a reflective surface off that ice and then angle that and use it as a signal mirror. So you're actually using, frozen water as a signal mirror, which can be done, and I would recommend highly doing it at a high elevation, flashing down into the direction of, a roadway or, whatever the situation might be. You could flash. Maybe you were up there climbing and you're in a state park. You never know, and you're stranded. You got stuck, and there ain't no one around. You went solo and didn't have a backup buddy or whatever the situation might be. But if you have the ability to reflect down to where help could be, that would save you as well. So always having a little bit of forethought and stuff like that in your creative imagination thought process for planning and preparedness is always going to save you as well. Now, with basic survival, typically speaking, everybody should have a pocket knife or utility knife or whatnot on them, or a utility tool, multi-purpose tool. That would be the ideal situation. But what if you don't have that? How are you going to generate a cutting surface or a tool? You can use stones and create a very sharp edge with stones. You can use sticks. You can sharpen the sticks and make an object that can puncture. You ever remember as a child you sharpened popsicle sticks on the concrete and you put a little edge on them and got a little popsicle knife, and every little kid thought that was so cool. Well, the same with when you're out in the wilderness. You can create tools that way. You can create clubs. You can create walking sticks. I always say when you have a walking stick, don't have a straight stick. Have a forked stick. Your forked stick could save your life because you can use it to defend yourself against a poisonous, venomous snake. So a forked stick is highly recommended. Or you could have yourself a 4 or 5 pronged spear, if made right, from your walking stick, and turn it into a spear. And the longer the better. Okay, so the longer your spear, the better you have for using it as a tool to reach out and touch your prey. And they're great for fishing. Now, is it easy? No, it is not easy to spear a fish. It really is not. But if that's all you got, it's worth having. You can slap the surface of the water, as you've seen on some television shows. I always believe in trapping prey, though. So going out and just hunting your prey, unless you're doing gathering. Now, if you're in the ocean, you can actually gather your food source. You don't necessarily need to go hunting if you know what you're looking for. There's a lot of food that you can get, and with clams and oysters and abalone, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff that you can get, that you can eat. And I'm sure you guys have seen that on many of the survival shows that are out there. Now, Survival Trek Escape will never regurgitate the same content that was ever displayed on any show, with the exception of primitive skills, and we won't even regurgitate Aboriginal skills at all. We have our own process for which we're going to do. It's unique, and it's going to be publicized, and we really can't really put it out yet because it's a surprise to the world, so can't really get into it too much. But Survival Trek Escape has a unique design, never done before, no regurgitated knowledge or anything like that, unless we do talk about fire crafting and, the basic bushcraft and primitive skills. We will get into that because you have to stay true to the skills, as my friend Les Stroud once told me on Twitter. And he was totally right, and we agree with that. That's why Les Stroud and I are in line with each other, very much so. And we're not in competition with each other, because I've designed a television show that doesn't compete with him at all, because his platform is unique to him, mine's unique to me. But we do compete against another show, and we're going to crush that show. Since it's not being made anymore, it's okay. It's okay to go beat something that isn't made anymore. So, we have Man vs. Wild in our target scope, and we plan on taking those records that it's established and crushing them. Probably we'll crush them quite simple. It'll be pretty easy to crush them because we offer a different content and added content. And we're removing some of the glitz and glam, but we'll never use fakery or embellishment, which is really good. I don't need to do that because I'm the real deal. But anyway, back to the basic survival stuff. A common knowledge in basic survival would be knowing what you need to survive and sustain. All right? You need to know the basics about shelter. Now, when you're using a shelter, you're always going to start off with a hasty shelter and do shelter improvement as you go along. The first things you need to know are what affects you in the wilderness, such as fire, water, and shelter. Shelter will protect you from the elements. It could be sunny and hot, and provide you shade. It could be cold and rainy and provide you shelter and warmth. It could be many things, but having shelter is key to your survival. Having it insulated inside to maintain your core heat that you generate to save that so you're not 100% reliant on fire is also very important. So having that built up. So your shelter shouldn't be roomy. It should be very tight fitting, almost like a shelter bag, like a sleeping bag would be, because you're probably not going to have a sleeping bag, and you're going to have to generate something that's going to capture and keep you insulated in your body, and it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have bugs crawling around, things like that, and little ants and whatever it might be. You're going to have to deal with that, but how you deal with that is you check yourself. You can light some fire, get it smoky. That might help you with some of the mosquitoes. It's not 100% though, but it'll get some of that stuff away from your body. You're going to want to get some water, and you're going to want to find or create a capture device to collect water with. Now, in nature, there's usually litter, but that's not always a guarantee, depending on how far out in nature you are. And there are some places on the planet Earth that human feet have never put their feet, never stood on before, or at least not for several hundred years. So you got to remember that too. So there might not be nature out there, but it's pretty neat when you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you find that you're finding an Indian head, or not Indian, an Indian arrowhead. If you find an Indian head out there, I would probably leave. but anyway, an arrowhead. You never know. It's amazing the things that you'll find that are very cool. So collecting your tool sources, collecting your water sources, establishing and collecting things to protect your body, like your feet and things like that. Those are all critical for you. You can make shoes out of cordage and bark and wrap your feet up. If say you didn't have any shoes, or for whatever purpose, things do happen. You got in a crash and your shoes went flying off your feet. Who knows? Or maybe you were wearing flip-flops and now you're in a situation because you were traveling, didn't expect to crash, and now you need shoes on your feet because all you got. So there's things you can do to generate your own protection for your body. The one things you want to protect always is your face, your hands, and your feet. You want to protect them. At least keep them insulated or padded. So all that being said, you got to create an environment for you to have a successful outcome in that in of itself, basically. So, but I found many times that when you are in a critical situation, that the biggest defeating factor is fear. Okay, don't let fear defeat you. You got to defeat fear. That's the one thing that will keep you alive. All right, and so you find yourself in this situation of survival, and you've never been in it before, and to you that's very scary. And so getting a thought process together. All right, do I stay where I'm at and in bed to where I'm at? Or do I go ahead and I seek to escape where I'm at and get to a different or better place? Now, the thing you got to look at is, what are your advantage points? Can you get to higher elevation, or can you get to a clearing? Where's the nearest body of water? Where's the safest place for you in consideration for predatory animals and things like that? So how do you, in effect, get to be prepared and protected and establish your own security? Those are things that you would have to determine on site at that location for which you find yourself being lost at. Okay, but there's so much you can do to protect yourself physically. You can put up barriers. You can protect your encampment. You can use nature to protect you. Use thorn bushes and things like that. But you got to be careful not to hurt yourself, because you don't want to get infection or suffer from any sprains or broken bones. That would not be very good for your own personal survival. But then on the other scope is, can you in turn collect and gather food, and do you know what you're looking for? Everybody has an idea of what they can eat. It's what they don't know what they can eat that really is critical and can be devastating. So what you try to do is look for things you're familiar with, especially if you're not an expert. You know you're pretty safe with nuts, so you got to, there are some nuts that are that have to be cooked before you eat them. I think cashews is one that you'd have to use, but walnuts, acorns, and things like that you can eat. If you pay attention to the animals and look at the signs of the animals and what they're eating, 9 times out of 10 you can eat what the animals are eating, especially if they're mammal. So you want to kind of look for that. You want to look for signs of food source, like water. When you find water, usually there's food sources around water, like cattails and things like that you can eat the rootstock to. You can also use the cattails as a fire punk or to carry a fire from one place to another, and they burn for a little bit of time if you saturate them with some animal fat. So if you actually did catch some animal and you were able to put the animal fat onto the cattail, you can get it to burn for a good 20, 30 minutes just off of that animal fat being saturated in the top of the cattail. However, there's other things you can eat, like dandelions. They're pretty good. There's just a lot of food that you can eat, but there's a lot of food that can kill you. And so when in doubt, don't put it in your mouth. You can do the trial and test. You can do that, but you need to know that method and know that method quite well and have that method rehearsed. And you need to not listen to that method. You need to go read about that method and study that method, because there's no room for error. I also highly suggest that in any vehicle format that for which you travel, you should have a survival manual that's very well put together. Maybe even more than one. Maybe you should have a cheat sheet plus a manual, but you should have a survival book in your backpack, in your glove box in your car, in the glove box in your airplane, in the glove box in your boat. I mean, there should be a survival manual in every mode that you travel in. And I mean, just to think that, because you never know when you're in survival mode. Especially if you're going backpacking. If you're going backpacking and you plan on taking an extended trip and you're going into a place where it's just going to be you and a couple friends or whatever, you better have a survival manual in your book, because you're a human being just like me, and you're going to have to remember a lot of stuff. Now, a guy like me, a guy like my associates and colleagues that I hang out with, do we need a survival manual to stay alive? No, but you should have one. Unless you're, a wilderness survival expert or you've been trained explicitly like I have been, or you live and breathe in this on a daily basis like I do, so you definitely want to have a reference manual, and you might want to have it protected and so that it's in a weatherproof wrapping. So if you did fall in the water, you didn't lose your book. You want to have that in a Ziploc sealed safe bag or oxygen tight container so it doesn't get wet. If it did fall in the water, it's protected, because that's really your crown jewel is the book knowledge that's in there. So have that with you. I know that the other guy has a product line, and then every time you buy his product line, there's this little survival pamphlet that he includes. That's a really good deal that he put out there. I actually like it. Is it enough? No, it's never enough. But at least it's something better than nothing, and it came free, a little piece of paper. I guess it's waterproof. So the other guy's got something pretty valuable. When I get my product line with the product line and sponsorships and for endorsements, I plan on having something much like that. But I want to get into a little bit more content, because to me that was just not enough. And so I plan on putting something else a little bit more viable together, and we'll deliver that into a format that you can keep with you, that's easy to use and user-friendly and self-explanatory and all that good stuff. But I want to add some more content because I think that's critical for you. A survival situation isn't always wilderness. A survival situation can be you're at the bank, and now you find yourself in a situation where the bank is being robbed. You could be in a situation where you're at a public event and a domestic terror attack happens, or you're at school and a domestic terror attack happens, or you could be somewhere and an earthquake happens, or you could be victim to Mother Nature, a tornado, or flash flooding, which all these things go on all the time with wilderness fires and all that stuff. So you could be in that situation. How do you survive that? And that's the scope for Survival Trek Escape. We're not isolated to, I'm just lost. We're going to be the major mega platform for all scenarios that are encompassed, and that's why I have actors. All right, the actors are going to facilitate drama in acting to create scenarios that I, as your expert and the host of the show, and some of my celebrity guests and some of my other guests, fan guests and stuff like that, will come on and will do certain things to react to the drama factor which my talented actors and actresses will portray. We have beautiful women on the show that are going to be on there. Our show is very G-rated. There's going to be no sex symbols on there, or anything that would be untasteful to a network at all. But they are very beautiful, because I figured the fans would rather see very beautiful women than not. And then we have created the Queens of Survival, which was going to be a follow-on TV series with those explicit casted actresses, and I'm not going to get into too much specifics about it, but I have that secondary follow-on show that we're going to be building once Survival Trek Escape gets onto the network. We have about 6 television survival series, plus we have an organization for which I'm building that's going to go out, and it's a lot like Tough Mudder. I can't get into specifics because I don't want my ideas to get copied or stolen, but it's going to rock the world, and it's going to go global, which is what I've created, and but we just haven't produced it or got out there and done anything with it publicly yet, because we're protecting it. Okay, but you guys are going to see that probably 2014 or 15, and it's going to rock the world, and you guys are going to love it, and it's going to get global recognition overnight, pretty much. So if anybody likes Tough Mudder, just wait until you see what I'm pushing out. It's going to rock you. It's going to rock the planet, pretty much. So on top of that, with anything survival, you guys are more than welcome to come and ask me a question. I'm very approachable. That's one of the ways I got my name out there. It's one of the reasons why I'm ranked number 2 on the top 10 best survival experts on the website. So just Google search the top 10 and then go there, type in best survival expert, the best survival experts, and I'm ranked number 2. It goes Bear Grylls, me, then Les Stroud. But I'm encroaching upon Bear Grylls every day by percentages, because the global audience is voting me in there because they realize I'm actually the real deal survival instructor. So and that's what the world wanted. And that's what the world's getting. I am America's survival son for a reason. It's because I earned it. It wasn't just handed to me. I fought for it. I built it. And I got into the fan base and got the support of the global fan base all around the world. So it's really nice to have that support. I think that Bear Grylls is a great guy. But I also think that America and the rest of the world needs a new face of survival. And that's why Survival Trek Escape is the dawn of a new era in survival. And I will be raising the standard and the bar for which survival is viewed. And it's going to have a standard that is going to set the tone and make it harder for just anybody to walk into the industry, because it's going to be that pretty much badass. So, and I hope you guys like it. But I can't get in too much specifics about it because I don't want to put too many spoilers out there. We do have a YouTube channel you can follow. You guys can follow me on my Facebook page. Survival Trek Escape does have a Facebook page. I have my personal account as well. We have our YouTube account under Survival Extreme Catalog, which you can go there and look at all the stuff for Survival Trek Escape. Survival Extreme Catalog Incorporated is the production company of Survival Trek Escape and all my movie platforms, like the World Trade Center. I have a movie I'm going to be doing, I've talked about a few times, and Amber Shadows, as well as a few other movie projects that we have going on that we're kind of in negotiation with, so it's kind of at rumored point with one of them. I haven't heard too much feedback yet, so until that's all official and we contract, I can't really keep continuing to promote it. But anyway, we'll see where that goes. But here we are wrapping it up. This is only a 30-minute program. I want you to remember what we talked about with survival and basic survival. You know, it's about your tools. It's about being calm. It's about gathering and collecting your thoughts about you in wilderness survival and meditation and water and procurement and insulation and elevation and bearing and all those things that I threw at you today. I want you to think about those things and put them in your mind. I want you to remember about getting the survival book and keeping that with you and studying that. I want you to watch as many YouTube videos and survival shows as you possibly can, and look for mine when that comes onto the network. We really want to go to Discovery Channel USA. That's my dream right now. But there's a lot of other great networks out there too. I just haven't really got to talk to anybody from them. So if there's anybody out there from those networks that are representatives of that and think that they can offer me something better than the Discovery Channel can, I mean, I'm more than willing to look at it. So, but anyway, we're about to wrap it up, and I want to send you guys away with my theme song that was done by Bruce John Dickinson and Frank Knight. And so here it goes. We're going to play it for you now, and I'll talk to you on the next episode. Thank you.
Daniel Shrigley, America's survival song. Daniel Shrigley, America's survival song. Daniel Shrigley, surviving against the odds. Daniel Shrigley, America's survival song. America's survival song. America's survival song. America's survival song. Survive this.